All right, here we are, Facing the Crowd, episode 7. Let's go.
Welcome back, guys. Made it to number 7.
Yeah. So what has happened in the last week? Not a lot, I would say, other than consistent Trump news coming out
Yeah,
of
it's pretty
DC.
much just Trump.
That's pretty much all we're going to be talking about. Some of this stuff that Trump has already done,
Mhm.
because he's done, I think, quite a bit, which is kind of
Yeah,
surprising. Of course, he's making good on a lot of his promises, which, I mean, how often is it that a government leader will do that?
right.
um, Even some things that kind of surprised me a little bit, such as the affirming of two genders from Trump. I wasn't anticipating something like that.
Yeah, I
Just
never
because I
thought
feel like
you'd
Trump
see
tends to
that,
lean
honestly.
be a little bit more lenient of the progressive ideology than, say, your
Mhm.
like average Christian conservative or something like that. He's
Sure.
obviously much more lenient on the issue of abortion. But he did that, and he's really started to do a strong attack against the woke ideology, woke progressive ideology, which I'm quite happy with. Of course, he's done a lot more
Yeah.
beyond that that I think is probably even more important. You could argue. But yeah,
I've
so
honestly been pretty impressed with how he's been doing in his, what is it now, first week of office, roughly.
first week,
Like,
yeah, he's signed
he's making
many.
me kind of regret not voting for him, which I didn't think I would ever say.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Obviously, you had the challenge of being in a different state than you live in, but
Right, that's
right,
true, and I
sure.
didn't vote for Kamala, obviously. I didn't. I chose not to
He
vote at
just
all,
chose
but
not to, which is perfectly fine.
yeah.
He still won by quite a lot. So,
Yes.
hmm anyways, so what else has he done? Um, I mean,
Um,
there's been clips circulating on the deportations that are happening. He's actually
right.
getting a lot of work done with that. Obviously, like there's been a lot of clips showcasing a lot of actual violent criminals with multiple like convictions being sent back, which I think is a good thing. I really
Yeah,
don't.
I think so.
It kind of baffles me that people think that would be a bad thing, other than being
Right.
some sort of a toxic false empathy, which I find particularly hilarious.
What, like, you can argue about the extent to which we should be deporting illegal immigrants and the manner in which we should be doing it, but like
Right,
when it comes to a convicted criminal who is also an illegal immigrant, just deport him, it
right,
shouldn't be
right.
controversial.
Yeah, it really shouldn't. I mean, that like the immigration issue, I think, was massive for Trump in the election. You look at a lot of those
Yeah.
border counties; a lot of those had a massive right wing swing towards Trump in the election, despite being having a large proportion of Hispanic Americans in there, which I think just shows that this is definitely not a race issue, as the
Yeah.
progressives like to paint it as, oftentimes.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a good point because, like, not everything is a race issue, and just because an issue like immigration tends to deal with people of a particular race doesn't mean that every American citizen who is of that race has the same opinion on that issue.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and, like, I mean, like, even some of, like, the clips I've seen are kinda crazy, like, they caught, like, I think this one Haitian guy who, was making a fit about being deported, and he had something like 17, I think, like, some crazy amount of, like, felonies that he's committed, and he was
Wow.
still on the streets or whatever, which,
Yeah.
yeah, it baffles me, that we've gotten to this point. Obviously, we're in the north of the US, we probably don't get too much of that
Yeah.
directly, but I mean, certainly for the country as a whole, I think that that's a good thing. Try
Yeah, I
to
think so.
being tough on crime. I think is a very smart thing to do. You look at a country like El Salvador, what they've done there to neutralize a lot of the gangs and the violence happening there, largely turning the country around. The president there has a very, very high approval rating with the citizens. What's his name?
Mhm.
I can't remember his name. Whatever,
I can't remember his name either. I know
whatever. So
there's
I think
still like some controversy around the El Salvador president and like his
that
methods, but like at the end of
yeah,
the
that's
day, he
true.
stopped the gangs.
Mhm. Yeah, he's definitely a little bit brutal in the way that he's
Yeah,
handling it, which obviously that's where I think there is a little bit more of a actual moral dilemma
sure, yeah,
presented, which I think that's a discussion for another time. Um,
probably, but like
it's a
I
little bit
don't see
tricky,
a
but like
moral dilemma in what Trump's done.
I don't think so. At least not yet. I don't know what the
Yeah,
true extent of it's going to end up being, but at least if you're deporting all of the violent criminals, I have absolutely zero problem with that.
right.
And like, of course, there's always going to be the one person that's just like, "Oh, you're a Christian. How dare you want to deport these people? Aren't you supposed to love your neighbor?" And I mean, my general response is, "Well, what about my neighbors in the United States legally who have been affected by these criminals?" And at that point, like, can you really? You can't give everyone everything they want at the end of the day.
Right. And I think that asking, I think the question is implying that to love someone, you have to be like always constantly like hyper kind to them and give them whatever they want. And that's just not the way love works. If you love someone, sometimes you're going to have to be hard on them for their own good or for the good of others, as you were saying.
Mhm. Yeah, and like, there's so many challenging moral issues like that. Just like in how a country is run, like to what extent can we really, um, I guess, like hammer down on a lot of things that we really want, even if it's affecting other people. Is that the best for the majority? Is it okay to do something that benefits the majority, even if it hurts a minority and stuff like that? Like the morality, it like
Right.
obviously God's morality is oftentimes black and white.
Hmm.
Um, but like of course in the real world, because of the fallen condition, there's oftentimes gray areas that have to be discussed and that are very difficult to work through.
Right. There's some, and like,
And
I think
even like
we would like
you
it if we
continue.
could get like a hard and fast rule that covers every single situation. And I think in real life, that's just not how it works with
Mhm.
morality. You have to judge on a case by case basis, which is frustrating but necessary.
Yeah, I guess I should mention that there is at least some idea of a moral gray area in some cases within scripture itself,
Sure.
um, where like uh, it's not necessarily it's a very difficult issue to discuss, and it's really a case by case type of thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
what else? What else has Trump done thus far?
You kind of
Um,
mentioned briefly the like two gender thing. We should probably discuss that a little bit more
mhm.
because that's pretty huge.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I was kind of shocked that he did decide to do that because I think that
Yeah.
um, that's going to make a lot of people very very upset. Um,
Hmm.
which I don't think is going to lead to unity. Obviously, the idea, obviously, like, can we achieve unity in modern American politics? Hard to say, but I don't think that's going to really do much for that. But it also was kind of shocking just because I mentioned Trump tends to seem to be a little bit more libertarian on some of these issues. Um, and does not really want to be seen as like a super authoritarian figure. But I also don't think that this is a super authoritarian move
Yeah.
necessarily. I do think it is taking a very clear stance that goes strongly against the extreme progressive ideology. But
I
I would
think
say that
so.
the majority of Americans probably don't have any problem with it.
That's probably fair. Yeah. And honestly, I was really surprised to see him do something like that because my read on Trump this election and this presidency has been he's going to try and be like the popular conservative president who doesn't have that many like super hardline policies and doesn't say anything like really stupid just to kind of try and please everyone. And like signing something like this seems to me like it would be kind of antithetical to that try to be popular with everyone thing. But I
Yeah.
mean, he signed it, and I think it's a good thing to sign.
Hmm. And of course, he's also made efforts against DEI,
Yeah.
diversity, equity, and inclusion ideology. Yeah, he's very, very in favor of having America be a true meritocracy
Mhm.
where just because of whatever skin color you have or your gender or anything like that shouldn't impact your capabilities in the workplace. Should be based off of your own skill and individual merit instead, which I think is a very, very good thing. Um, of course, I can understand why some people are going to be very, very upset by that, just because, like, could that theoretically impact some minority groups in a disproportionate way? You could probably find statistics to back that up, but I think that overall, just trying to enforce a true meritocracy, I think, is just a good decision for America in general.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
I mean, I know we talked in the past when we used to have longer podcasts about kind of the issue of like race swapping in movies, and both of us kind of arrived at the conclusion that, well, like, it isn't great. At the end of the day, we just want to see good actors act well. And I think you
Right.
can kind of extend that conclusion to everything. Like, whatever your job is, like, I don't really care what your skin color or your race or whatever is. I just want to see people who do their jobs well. And I
Hmm.
think that ought to be the main thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So we'll see how much that goes into play. Like, obviously, I've heard like all they really could do is just start hiding it more.
Mhm.
Like before, their DEI was pretty obvious. Like even watching football, the commercials, you could like it was almost rare to see like a white couple, straight couple
Yeah.
in an ad, and I'm already starting to see kind of a shift away from that. But of course, could be hiding it. If you don't know, there is a movement known as Bridge, which is essentially a new name for DEI. That's even more of an extreme ideology. So of course,
Oh boy.
a lot of people might start doing that, although likely more in secret. So it's difficult to say how effective it's actually going to be at attacking the issue. But
Mhm.
I certainly hope that it is successful and we do not have to worry with DEI in a lot of cases. I should note that, like, if we're talking like affirmative action, I think that to a certain extent, affirmative action is fine. I think it's okay on a class based system. So if you have
Yeah, sure.
less money, I think that and that's your barrier to going to, say, college, then I think it's fair
Yeah.
to do something like that. But doing it solely based off of one's um, physical traits, I think, is particularly not exactly great.
Yeah,
At
I
least
think
like
so.
in cases of like college and probably a lot of jobs as well.
I think college is going to be the main one, honestly. And
Hmm.
I don't think DEI is going to like go away. I'm sure it's still going to be kind of inherent in like the admissions and scholarship systems of many colleges. And I don't think there's a lot we can do about that. But like taking the step to kind of scale it back a little bit is good, I think. And
Hmm.
there probably are some people of like other races who, because of their race or ethnicity, have legitimately had a harder time in life or whatever. And like for that reason, I kind of get why the college would want to favor them a little more in the admission process. Like if you have that difficult life story and the character
Hmm.
growth and the hard work behind that, that makes sense. But if
Right.
it's just like, hey, you're not white, please come here, that's a little bit silly.
Yeah, yeah. I think like obviously a lot of colleges are not utilizing like test scores as much anymore,
Yeah,
but like obviously like if you don't meet the requirements for an education at insert school here, then I think that you shouldn't really be able to get in regardless.
right. I mean, my test
Um
scores were the best thing I had when applying to colleges. So
I did pretty good on ACT.
yeah.
I don't think it really matters for a small private Christian school, but
Well, yeah, yeah, that's fair.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, yeah, so I'm very curious to see where the DEI ends up going. Will we actually see a great impact in that, especially in maybe in the entertainment sphere? Are we going to be seeing a lot less diversity hires, whether for like directors or whatever, or race swapped
Yeah.
characters? Hard to really say. I mean, it's very clear that the culture is going in the direction against DEI, and like even you saw
Mhm.
with like Zuckerberg basically doing a 180 on censorship, um, because of the success that he saw from Twitter and the impact that that had, possibly even on the election and the country. He's basically now trying to do the same with Facebook. And similarly, I think that it's possible we see a lot of other companies do some sort of a 180 on a lot of their more progressive views because of the way that the culture is going, which that's just business at that point.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, I think the vast majority of companies and businesses really honestly don't care about these cultural issues, and they're just kind of trying to go with the flow and like please
Mhm.
people as best they can. So if culture is starting to say DEI is a misstep, then you can expect most of or many of the companies to begin saying
Mhm.
DEI was a misstep.
Yeah, and like even like if you look at YouTube, like all of the like stereotypical YouTube sponsorships, like the 17 VPNs and Raid Shadow, like they don't seem to have much of a political bias at all in who they sponsor.
Yeah,
So a lot of the times their sole purpose is money, making a profit, and I think that just with the trend that the culture is going, we'll probably see a lot of walking back on the progressivism and more into, I guess, Trumpism, which I don't want to call conservatism because I I don't really equate the two. But
yeah, that's fair.
what else? Oh yeah, Trump also the kind of the bombshell was Trump signing an order to declassify the documents regarding JFK, RFK, and MLK, which
Mhm.
made a lot of headlines. He mentioned that he was going to do that during his campaign, of course, and the fact that he's already put an order in for that, I think is crazy. I mean, who knows how long it'll take before we actually get those, or if we'll
Right.
actually get if the public will actually get access to those or not. It's hard to say. Will we just receive a bunch of papers with blacked out um, lines? Who knows?
Hold on a second, Tyler. I am
Yeah.
having headphone issues here.
Oh. Okay. Wait. Okay. All right, we're back. Headphones die. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
It's
I
always
don't
so
know
annoying when your headphones die. It's like come on, I charge these. They should last the whole day at the very least.
exactly right.
Um,
I should probably plug them back in here too,
yeah.
because I'm gonna be annoyed if I can't listen to music later.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, so I'm very, very curious. Obviously, like a lot of those guys all have some sort of major conspiracy surrounding their assassinations.
Right.
Um, so obviously that the conspiracy theory community is very hyped to see if their assumptions are correct. And I mean, I'm very curious to see what's going on because I mean, if something's classified, at least that means in theory there's something to hide. Of course, it could
Right.
also just be sensitive and like government and whatever. But I'm kind of I'm somewhat suspicious. I'm not particularly convinced of the conspiracies, but I do think that there seems to be some shady stuff. Obviously, it's the government. There's going to be shady stuff. So
I mean, in terms of JFK, I think it's fairly clear there was some kind of conspiracy going on with his assassination. Who knows if the government was involved
if
or
it's the
not?
CIA or not, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
with
I mean, like even
MLK and RFK, like I don't know. I
I mean, there seems to be like I mean, there seems to be strong support for the idea that the FBI somehow colluded with MLK and his movement. I don't know if that was tied to his assassination. I'm not too well versed in that conspiracy.
Mhm.
Obviously, the JFK one's the most infamous.
Yeah,
Like, there's like 200 videos on YouTube about it, so I'm a little bit more familiar with what people have going on there. Actually, I
that's
find
what
it
I'm familiar
like
with.
you haven't seen it, but like I find it funny how in the X-Men movies they just say JFK was a mutant, and and they tied Magneto to his death, which that's I thought that was kind of clever.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's
that's
interesting.
completely off topic. Which movie was that? Was that That was Days of Future. That was definitely Days of Future Past. Yeah, Days of Future, the best X-Men movie, in my
I've
opinion.
only seen the first one, and it was a movie that I've
It was a
seen.
movie. Yeah, you watched it with me, right?
I did watch it with you. The dialogue was not well written in that movie.
Yeah, it was a very like that was before the superhero genre got established with the
Yeah,
Marvel formula, so
yeah,
it was
very.
definitely a little bit more cheesy. Um, yeah, I do really like Days of Future Past. Obviously, I like I love Logan as well. I don't really
Well, yeah,
consider it an
Logan's
X-Men
great.
movie, but Logan's phenomenal.
Mhm.
Anyways, let's get back. What were we talking about? JFK,
Conspiracy
right?
theories, JFK,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't it's quite interesting. It was funny because there was some, like, news publication that was mocking the idea that Trump had not yet made his promise, on releasing the documents, and then he literally did it that day after
Yeah,
they posted that, which was funny. Like, the media will continue to completely bash Trump in any way that they can, which, of course, is why people voted for them. They just haven't figured that out yet.
mhm,
Um, yeah, so, yeah. This is it could be a rough presidency in that way, but it's also kind of funny to watch how desperate some of these media organizations are to smear Trump at this point, and
I mean,
it's really only gonna make him stronger.
I haven't been in touch with like the political sphere as much as I used to be, but my impression has been that he's been getting, I guess, less backlash than he did first term. Would you say that's true, or am I just
Yes, I would say that's definitely true just because of the legacy he had during that first term.
sure?
People are just like, okay, wait a minute. He at least knows what he's doing. He's not just a celebrity who is like, I have money, let's run for president. He has an actual political resume now, which I think
Right.
definitely helps. On top of the Democrats having an absolutely garbage campaign with Biden and
Yeah.
then switching to Kamala halfway through, and that certainly didn't help them.
Right.
Obviously, I think like most of America probably would still prefer different candidates than the ones that we had.
Yeah, I think so.
But like, I mean, if Trump is continuing what he's doing right now, like we could see some pretty good changes, I think, which will make
Right.
me feel a lot better, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's still really early in his term, and like pretty much every president gets hit with like some completely unexpected thing, and I'm sure Trump will as well, and we'll see like
You're gonna
how
have
he responds
COVID
to
two,
it. Well, yeah, he
COVID
had
two,
COVID.
electric boogaloo.
Biden got like more COVID, and I mean, he partially contributed to the bad economy, but that was also something he had to handle. But yeah, it'll be
Why did you
interesting.
pardon Fauci? What did he do?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Oh man, that's crazy. Obviously, and Trump obviously has put out a lot of pardons already.
Well,
That's
yeah, but
another
like
thing with the
the Trump
news.
pardons are like they kind of make sense, and
Okay,
they're
so I'm
it should
very
be fine.
pro the pardons for like the pro-life advocates.
Yeah, me too.
If we're talking about the Gen Sixers, I mean, I think like I don't fully have all the details regarding that event. I know that the left tries to act like it was this horrific event and tried to use it for like forever to smear Trump's campaign for this most recent election. I certainly don't like what happened on January 6th, assuming that all the facts I think are facts.
Yes.
So I don't know that one, but but I'm not surprised at all that he pardoned them. I think he even mentioned that he would do so,
Hmm.
and I think that a lot of them are, for the most part, innocent. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe a couple of them did actually like break the law at times, and I don't really know. I don't have all the details. So, anyways, but the pro life advocates, I'm strongly for releasing them. I think, obviously, again, I don't have all the information, but I think seeing that they are pro-life advocates, I haven't really met like an aggressive pro-life
Yeah.
candidate in like a violent sort of way. Violence, I mean, violence with their words maybe, but
Right.
violence with their actions, I haven't really heard of it.
So
So I think that's good.
I've actually been one of the people in the past who's like gone and stood outside Planned Parenthood and like prayed with the other pro-life activists or whatever. And I have never once seen like a pro-life activist do anything even like vaguely rude. Like that, you have the pro-choice counter protesters out there who are like screaming slurs and expletives at you. But like the pro-lifers are just standing there praying for the most part, and I'm sure there's exceptions. There are probably a few who have like,
I mean, like, who knows? Maybe these pro-life advocates were actually a little bit more wild.
But I think there was like a lot of them too. Weren't there quite a few? Like I have
there was a good handful,
that all of them, like,
I mean, if they were imprisoned simply for the crime of protesting, then I think their release should have happened. They should have never been jailed to begin with. But
yeah, absolutely.
obviously, like, maybe it's a case by case. I don't know the specifics for each individual who was pardoned.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting. At least, like, if we're comparing like Trump's pardons thus far with Biden's pardons, I think I might prefer one over the other, just a little bit.
I mean, can make an argument that maybe not everyone Trump pardoned deserved to be pardoned, and that's probably fair. But like, I think probably 99% of the people who he pardoned were innocent, and then you have Biden's pardons where it's like, dude, what are you doing?
I mean, like, pardoning your family sort of makes sense. Like, I mean, like from a moral standpoint, like, sure, it's kind of scummy, but like, you want to protect your family from that. Okay, I get it. Of course, Biden went back on the whole "I'm not going to pardon my son." And pardoned him anyway. Whatever.
And then
like, if I was president, would I pardon my family members? Yeah, probably.
That's fair.
Assuming, like, I mean, obviously, like, my family members are probably in the clear, as far as I know. So,
I think so.
Hopefully. Yeah. Is there anything else? I feel like I'm missing like one major thing that Trump did so far.
We talked about the gender thing. We talked about the pardons. We talked about immigration.
I know he's like starting to make efforts on drilling America's oil, like the drill baby drig or whatever it is.
I mean, we could talk a little bit about the Department of Government Efficiency that he established.
Yeah, Doge is going to be interesting. Like, I'm still questionable of Elon's true motives. I think that, like, he had such like a 180 with his political. And maybe it wasn't super sudden, sure, but yeah, I don't know. Vivek, I think I trust Vivek a little bit more to be aligned with Trump than I do with Elon. But I don't know. I'm very curious to see what they actually end up doing to make the government more efficient. In theory, if they cut a ton of government spending, then that's probably a good thing, regardless of what they're cutting. Obviously, I think Trump did sign something to halt foreign aid.
That was
although I feel like I heard that there was an exception for Israel and Ukraine, because of course there was.
Yeah.
But I think that's good, and we're already seeing, like, I think, like, recently I saw like something about the Colombian president basically bending the knee to Trump's demands when it comes to returning illegals. So, like, it's just having it feels like Trump just has much more of a strong persona, which I think is making a lot of countries willing to work with the US or treat the US as the dominant power.
Yeah, sure.
Which I think could be a good thing, could also be a slightly bad thing, depending on how that power is wielded.
It's definitely something to be careful with, but I think in the short term, if, like, it seems that Trump is accomplishing what needs to be accomplished and what he said he'd accomplish, and he's not like, he hasn't stepped over any huge lines yet, in my opinion.
Right. I don't think so. We'll see though. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Am I going to be in 100% approval of everything Trump does? Probably not.
Yeah.
Realistically not. But so far, I think so good. Um,
Mm.
yeah. Was there any like we were trying to think of like was there any other major culture war stuff happening in the past week? And I couldn't think of too much. I've kind of been a lot more offline than usual,
Yeah.
which is I mean probably a good thing for myself, but not
Um,
so much for this show. Um, yeah, it's tough. Anyway, so we are planning on doing our first theology faith focused episode, which our tentative name is Theology Thursdays. So we might
but it
just call
will
it
not
like Space
necessarily
in the
drop on
Pew.
Thursday.
Not necessarily drop on Thursday. That's true. That's true. I'm planning on dropping it Thursdays though. Assuming we get an episode recorded. Anyways, because
Yeah.
like, we want to split up the shows instead of just having a bunch of like awkward, wild, just
Right.
segments that are just completely unrelated. Like, oh, we're talking politics, and then next thing you know, here's a tier list for all the Christopher Nolan movies, and then oh, here is what the Bible says about female pastors, and
We still haven't
yeah,
actually talked about what the Bible says about female pastors.
we'll get to it.
Someday.
We'll
Someday.
get to it. That there was
Oh,
the one
that's
female
right. That
pastor
was
that
kind of a
spoke
culture
at
war thing.
the was it the inauguration? I have no idea when it
I
happened. There
feel
was
like
this
it
like
was.
Episcopalian female pastor that basically got dunked on by the Christian community collectively.
Mhm.
Um, Despite some people trying to defend her, of course, if you have like starting with a female priestess, you're not going to get a lot of approval from the Christians, regardless of what you're saying. Um, it was kind of like because it was very clear that she was a progressive
Yeah.
Christian. Very, very clear. I mean, even if some of the things she said, like protect the poor and the vulnerable, like sure, those are biblical topics, but like just because of the progressive ideology imbued within it, it's pretty clear of what the actual agenda behind saying those things particularly is. And I think that that's just an
Right.
example of the toxic empathy often directed towards Christians in order to um, essentially get them to bend the knee to certain ideologies out of the name of being um, sunshine and rainbows lovey-dovey towards everyone else.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was I didn't even listen to it, so I guess I'm kind of just going off of what I've seen on the internet regarding it, but I did not see much positive at all.
I didn't
Uh,
see anything positive. I just kind of saw that it happened,
mhm.
and that
I
was
think
all.
all the people trying to defend her were in the comments,
Mhm.
and did not really have the best of arguments. Kind of got destroyed in the comments, but yeah, I don't know.
And
Anyways,
apparently a bunch
this
of people
is
got mad at Zoomer for making a video about it, so he had to
okay.
change
I
this.
kind of got upset about it too, just because like he made a video explaining why Christians shouldn't talk about like there's another progressive pastor who said something really bad. And he was just like Christians shouldn't talk about this to not publicize it, and then he just ended up talking about this case to publicize it.
Yeah.
Which I mean, obviously, like everyone else is talking about it, so I don't know. Did he change his mind? I don't know. Um, I thought his take on it was pretty good, though.
I didn't watch the video. I was honestly just a little bit annoyed that I was getting pinged because no one liked this video.
That's true. That's true. He's just like, I lost subscribers because of this in the Discord, and like, I was
But
just like, oh my gosh, bro.
just deal with it, bro. That's being a
Just deal with
semi-pop
it, bro. The comment section
YouTuber.
has lost like 500,000 subscribers in a month. Okay, you're fine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting topic as well. I know you're not really following the Daily Wire drama, but we could talk about it briefly
Yeah, we can
if you
bring it up.
want. Here, I'm gonna take Trump off here. We don't need him anymore.
Yeah.
So
Goodbye, Trump.
basically, um, Brett Cooper, who is a young woman, conservative ish, conservative libertarian, whatever you want to call her, influencer who ran the YouTube channel, The Comment Section, which was created and owned by the Daily Wire. But then something happened. We don't know necessarily all the details, a lot of very bad rumors regarding it, but essentially Brett leaves the comment section due to
Wait, Brett
presumably a
left the
disagreement.
comment section?
Huh?
She left the comment section?
Yes, she did.
I thought the comment section was like just her, though, isn't it?
Nope.
I
It
don't
was.
think
I mean, it's like now the channel's literally just called the comment section. They removed the with Brett Cooper from it, and it's
I
doing
thought.
very, very
Wow.
badly. The Daily Wire greatly, I think, underestimated the significance of Brett's character for the actual show. Because she got replaced by her former producer, whose name is Reagan. Um, and then people noticed that Brett may or may not have unfollowed Reagan. And deleted all of the photos with Reagan because Reagan was Brett's maid of honor as well at her wedding. So that's where people are just like, okay, something's off here. Um, something fishy is going on with this. And then, of course, so Brett leaves. Whether the disagreement was purely like financial, she wanted more money. Daily Wire said no, or she actually was just like, I'm sick of not being able to talk about Israel. Or something like that. She wanted more freedom, whatever. All I know is her new channel is currently at like 600,000 subscribers without a single video.
I
So
mean, I'm
once she
looking at.
starts uploading to that, I think it's completely over for the comment section. I mean, it's already pretty much over. Like Brett was pulling probably like almost a million views on like every video, or like
Yeah,
at
I'm
the very
looking at
least
it.
like 500,000. And then when Reagan took over, they're barely even getting 100,000, if even like 50,000 is like the average or
Right.
something like that.
I mean, I'm
Which
looking at it now, and it used to feel like there was a new Brett Cooper comment section video every day, and like every
well,
single one
yeah.
had at least 500,000 views within
Mhm.
like within pretty quickly of it being released. And now there's like week old comment section videos that haven't even come close to hitting 100K.
Mhm. And like, if you actually like, the thing that's really creepy is that Reagan seems to be completely copying Brett's mannerisms, which
Yeah.
has been pointed out by a lot of people. Which is honestly, it's kind of creepy in a way.
Mhm.
So Daily Wire is definitely desperate because like the comment section was also the fastest growing channel. I believe it's the second largest channel as far as subscriber count goes, behind only Ben's channel.
Mhm.
And obviously, it's also directed to Gen Z, the younger demographic, which none of the Daily Wire hosts are able to do that
Right.
well at all. And so I think this is a massive like gut punch to the Daily Wire. Of course, they lost Candace Owens, and then they lose Brett Cooper. They've lost their two female hosts, which that's great. And of course, I generally just I want Daily Wire to just be done at this point.
Yeah.
Mostly because I just want Michael Knowles to be independent, but that's a different that um yeah, we'll see how where they end up going. I mean, there's still like a fairly wealthy corporation, one of the leading conservative news outlets. So we'll see though, but like obviously because YouTube makes money based off of views, and if you're getting a tenth or a 20th of the former views, that's gonna tank your income drastically, which could be very bad for Daily Wire.
Yeah, that's definitely not great.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, Daily Wire seems to always be caught up in some controversy nowadays. Like it started with the Steven Crowder pointing out their bad contracts, which
Mhm.
I think was it was kind of scummy. But I do generally agree with Steven Crowder's take on don't sign these contracts, don't sell your soul to a corporation, remain independent as much as
Yeah.
possible. Which I think that's a good sentiment. Then you had the Candace Owens fiasco, which I thought was really bad to begin with. I actually canceled my Daily Wire subscription, but I mean because of that. But I
Mhm.
mean, like I wasn't really using it anyways. super overpriced in my opinion. But Candace has said some absolutely wild crap lately on the internet, and I can't stand her anymore. It's insane. Oh, oh, it's
I
okay.
didn't realize Brett Cooper had actually left the comment section. I thought she just left like the Daily Wire.
Yeah, and I mean she's currently like under NDA, obviously.
Right.
I think I want to say she mentioned something that she will upload her first video on her new independent channel. I want to say towards the end of this month or in February is when she's actually able to do that. And I
Sure.
fully anticipate that video getting, it possibly could get like 2 million views pretty quickly with that. Of course, like how, like if she's completely independent, will it be the same? I don't really know. I
Mhm.
think, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch. And that might be like the nail in the coffin for the comment section too. Everyone just leaves, unsubscribes there and subscribes to Brett. We'll see.
Yeah,
Because I mean, the
it'll
comment section still has 4 million subscribers somewhere around there,
yeah,
and it continues to drop. But I think that we're going to see an even larger drop off once Brett starts uploading again, in theory,
mhm,
or it's just
almost
going to be a slow, consistent decrease.
it'll be
But yeah,
interesting for sure.
hmm for sure. Anyways, I'm, I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about in this episode. I mean, this is going
Probably
another
not.
10-minute ramble. Probably
We
not.
should
Anyways, okay.
probably move on to the theology segment, and if we're
Theology
gonna do that,
segment, which will be a completely separate upload now. So
yes.
we're going to be ending off this episode, episode 7. Continue to try to do this weekly. But yeah, thank you for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.
See you later.